There's a particular stillness that comes after Sunday evening at church in a small town. Hymns still echoing faintly in memory. Starched collars loosened. Children half asleep in the pew before the sermon finishes. June 9th, 1912. Villisca, Iowa. Population just over 2,000. A railroad town. Grain elevators, general stores, front porches that face the street without fear. That night, the Moore family walked home from church under oil lamps and soft June air. Josiah Moore, his wife Sarah, their 4 children, Herman, Catherine, Boyd, and Paul, and 2 guests, Lena and Ina Stillinger, invited to spend the night. Neighbors saw them. Nothing unusual, no tension, no raised voices, no sense of threat, just another Sunday. The Moore house stood at 508 East 2nd Street. White frame, 2 stories. Modest but respectable. Not isolated. If someone screamed, neighbors should have heard it. And yet, no one reported a sound. The next morning, the first hint that something was wrong came from routine. The Moore children hadn't appeared for chores. Josiah hadn't opened his store. Chickens weren't fed. A neighbor, Mary Peckham, knocked. No answer. She called Ross Moore, Josiah's brother, and together they entered. In a newspaper excerpt from June 10th, 1912, one of the most fiendish crimes in the history of Iowa was discovered this morning in the quiet town of Villisca. The entire Moore family, together with 2 young guests, were found brutally slain in their beds. The house was in disarray, and the bodies bore evidence of extreme violence. End quote. The word used repeatedly in early papers was fiendish. The first body found was Josiah Moore, laying in his bed. Skull crushed. Blunt end of an axe used first. Then the blade. Overkill. Violence beyond necessity. Sarah Moore, in the same room, similarly attacked. Upstairs, 4 more children, each struck multiple times. In the guest room, the Stillinger sisters, also bludgeoned. 8 victims, 1 axe. Every oil lamp in the house had its chimney removed. This detail appears in nearly every newspaper account. From the Des Moines Register, quote, all lamps had been manipulated in a manner suggesting the murderer desired diminished illumination, end quote. He removed the glass, lowered the flame, dimmed the light. Someone comfortable moving in half darkness. The mirrors. The mirrors were covered with cloth. Victims' faces draped. Why? Some newspapers suggested superstition. Others speculated shame, or perhaps the killer did not want to be watched. If you've got a pipe in hand and you picked up your blend from the Gatlin Burlier tobacconist, this is a good place to slow your draw. Let it settle. Some stories and some leaf don't tolerate rushing. Now, back inside the house. The stillness. There were signs the killer stayed. Food disturbed in the kitchen. A bowl of bloody water. Bacon grease left on the stove. This wasn't frenzy. It was deliberate. He moved room to room, closed doors behind him, locked some from inside, and then he vanished. Now to the investigation. The town gathered quickly. By mid-morning, crowds filled the yard. People tracked blood through the house. Evidence compromised almost immediately. Newspaper reporters arrived before trained investigators. Small-town law enforcement was overwhelmed. Another newspaper excerpt from June 11, 1912. Quote, the scene within the Moore residence is described as one of the most appalling imaginable. Townspeople wept openly in the streets. Mothers gathered their children close. End quote. The panic wasn't just grief. It was fear. Because this wasn't robbery. Nothing substantial was taken. This was slaughter. And the suspect list, well, early suspicion turned to Frank Jones, prominent businessman, former employer of Josiah Moore. Rumors of a business dispute, whispers of personal scandal. Some believe Moore had exposed corruption. Others claim jealousy. But suspicion is not proof. Then there was the Reverend George Kelly, traveling preacher, odd demeanor. Letters later surfaced containing inappropriate language toward young girls. He left town before sunrise the morning after the murders. Arrested months later. Confessed, then recanted. 2 trials. Both ended in hung juries. His confession contained inaccuracies, but it also contained details not widely published. To this day, scholars remain, well, divided. And then there's the railway theory. Villisca sat along a rail line. Similar axe murders had occurred across the Midwest. Families killed in bed, axes left at the scene, mirrors covered. Some believe a transient serial killer moved town to town by train. If so, he may have arrived unnoticed and left before sunrise. Before we go further into suspects, let me say something quickly. There's something about well-built, honest craftsmanship that stands in contrast to chaos like this. Sewell's Woodworks and True Freedom Design make practical pieces, pipe accessories, gear for folks who still work with their hands or take side-by-side out where the pavement ends. Built steady, no flash, just solid work. Now, back to 1912. There were the trials in a divided town. George Kelly's trial became nothing more than spectacle. It was a crowded courtroom, newspaper frenzy. The prosecution leaned heavily on confession. Defense attacked reliability. Kelly claimed exhaustion, coercion, confusion. One excerpt from the Omaha World Herald. Quote, "The Reverend appeared pale and agitated, his testimony wandering, his recollection uncertain." End quote. 2 hung juries. No conviction. Frank Jones was investigated but never charged. Whispers never ceased. And then there were the neighbors suspecting neighbors. Church attendance shifted. Families began locking doors. Children slept with lamps lit. The Moore house stood, then changed hands, then became something else. If you've been sitting with this story for a while, you've earned something solid. If you're around Knoxville, Tennessee, Vol Market number 3 is a great place to grab a cheeseburger or a turkey steamed sandwich, maybe some deep fried pickles, a kraut dog, with no drama, just good food. All right, back to Villisca one more time. The house would not close. The murders were never solved. No official closure. No plaque naming a killer. Just 8 graves. And a house that still stands. Visitors claim unease. But the real haunting isn't supernatural. It's unresolved violence. 8 people killed in their beds. No verdict. No certainty. Just theories. And silence. Some crimes echo not because they're loud, but because they were quiet. No scream remembered. No shot fired. No confession trusted. Just a town that went to sleep safe and woke up different. So tonight, you might want to leave a lamp lit. This has been the Pine Grove Briar, and until next time, keep your pipe lit for sure, and your powder dry.